you're finally awake. I hope you don't mind I help myself to some of your sweet rolls. Oh, and part of your liver. Consider it payment in advance. After all, you're about to receive a unique look at the city of Whiterun, or else say Dover, the Hell of the Dragon. Now, discretion's my middle name, so I won't ask why you need to know all of this, but let's just say I've done things in Whiterun that would make one of those Khajiit caricature artists blush. Well, we've got a bit of time before we get to the city proper, so let me give you a bit of a history lesson. A few thousand years ago, a group of tall, hulking menfolk bravely fled a civil war from their home continent of Itmora. Back then, Tamriel had more elves than a pouting contest at the Stick Up the Arse convention, and these Mer weren't happy to see men pouring over the border to steal their jobs, finger their lassies, and unearth all-powerful artifacts from an even more ancient era. The Snow Elves, who the settlers used to catch up with for a few beers, engulfed the town of Sarthal and slaughtered all but 3 inhabitants. This would be known as the Night of Tears, a no doubt horrific scene that would cost far too much to show visually. The survivors, Ysgramor and his 2 sons, bravely fled this massacre back to Itmora, rallying a war party to avenge those murdered at Sarthal. The legendary Ysgramor and his horde of 500 companions descended upon Tamriel to show those pesky snow elves that they were wrong to mistrust men by decimating their population and colonizing their continent. Ha! That'll teach him. One of Ysgramor's closest friends, a lad named Jeek of the River, took his crew, his boat Jorvaskir, and $15 to set out to explore this strange new land. Their might was unmatched, and the virgin snow elves ragdolled at the sight of the Chad man. Jeek's crew ventured south and stumbled upon a sight most strange. A great statue of a bird, standing erect amongst fertile land, with nary an elf in sight. The men were initially suspicious of this monument.
Is not this wide land fit for harvest? Why have not the elves, vile to their core, seen to exploit and tame it?
Their elven captors feared the statue, claiming it was put there by a force even more ancient than they. Of course, these heathen men didn't share the elves' fear, and instead saw a tool they could use against the pointy-eared pricks. With prosperous land and an inbuilt elf repellent, Jeek and his companions had finally found their new home. Thus began the construction of the city of Whiterun, named so after the White River that runs through the city. This narrowly beat out other proposed names, such as Bird Rock, No Elf, and one name that was just screaming. Look at the timing on that. We're finally here. Welcome to Whiterun. Sorry for shouting. You flew up really fast. Name? Seymour Discretion Butts. You look familiar. Have you visited Whiterun before? No, first time actually. Just one of those faces, I think. Alright, in you go, fancy man. Sorry about that. Right, I imagine you want to look around. Well, we've got the blacksmith, the alchemists, the wall of patrons, the market, and the general store. Oh, sorry about that. But hey, I imagine you want to see the forge from the story, right? This is the Skyforge. The whole reason Whiterun exists, and nobody has a bloody clue where it's from. The elves claim it's older than them, which leaves a pretty narrow list of people who could craft a beauty like this. The goddess Kinnereth is associated with the hawk, although the Nords around here call her Kine, as any word longer than 4 letters is like to send them into a fit of rage. Not only do they believe she spat the first Nords onto the throat of the world, they believe she's the one to lead their dead to Sovngarde, the Nord afterlife. The kiss at the end, they call her. Though I can't think of many ladies that I've wanted to kiss after... Look, this is all just flowery nonsense, written and regurgitated by fools whose fingers are more acquainted with the curves of a quill than that of a lover. Guys like us value practicality, And this avian artifact is capable of producing the strongest steel in all of Skyrim. Skyforge steel, they call it, because it's steel forged in the Skyforge. Look, these are big words for the Nords, just let them have this one. According to the spirit of the great Lucien Lachance,
it is said a blade forged in its fires can cut through sinew, as if it were parchment.
Once a member of the Dark Brotherhood, Lucien certainly knew a thing or two about cutting through sinew. The forge itself is tended by Jarl Greymane, who makes weapons and armor and nipple piercings for the companions. A brilliant smith and a great kisser eye, but there are some who believe that his talents are only a fraction of his success. Oengal War Anvil of Windhelm claims,
I respect Yorland, but he has the good fortune to work the Skyforge. Something about the fires. Their steel just holds tighter.
The origin of the Skyforge's power, at least according to Yorland, is that it's imbued with the souls of great warriors. After being stabbed in the mouth to death by the Silver Hand during the Companions questline, their old harbinger Kodlak was laid to rest on the Skyforge. This was an awful idea, as his pyre quickly caught on fire, which would have smelt absolutely atrocious. And, not just because of all the Nords in attendance. How they didn't notice the red-hot forge while setting it up is beyond me, but this logistical oversight had a surprise upside. In the words of Yorland,
Since Kodlak's funeral, the Skyforge feels more awake. It's always been said that the souls of the heroes of old are what gives Skyforge steel its strength. But I think the forge knows the greatness of Kodlak's soul. I can't really explain, but it feels like it's young. I'll wager it could now forge metal the likes of which hasn't been seen since eras long forgotten. I'm eager to try.
After this, you're able to craft Nord hero weapons, as well as ancient Nord armor and nipple piercings, and God, you'd hope you didn't get kicked in the meat and veg. Even the ladies' armor has muff mitigation. Next up is, oh, good heavens, look at the time. I'll be right back in about 60 seconds.
Oh, sorry, I thought this was Bellathor's general goods store?
Well, it was, but you know how Bellathor always talked about selling his own sister if he had one? Yeah, it turns out he actually did.
Oh, sure.
Nasty business human trafficking. No, you've stumbled upon the brand new Fantasy Division Generally Goods store. Huh?
Well,
We even had an eye portal installed for your viewing pleasure.
Whoa! Mermulner is here to destroy Whiterun! We need a hero! The Shin Slasher will save the day! Now with key collecting action! Kids, make sure you're dressed to kill in our legally distinct custom-designed Black Sisterhood tees! Just look at these testimonials! And now, steal your parents' credit card for the Fantasy Division Tote Bag of Holding! Our custom-designed tote bag is perfect for your next tabletop gaming session, with ample room to hold boxes, books, cards, and, well, just about anything you can think of.
This time I didn't cut my pinky off.
Ask your parents to visit www.fantasydivision.com now and snatch up the Assassin Supply Bundle for an exclusive trading card.
You will buy some Fantasy Division, yes you will. You will buy some Fantasy Division, yes you will. You will buy some Fantasy Division.
Okay, sick dude, that was really weird. I just need some iron ingots, but good luck with that.
Now, I know this town seems pretty idyllic as far as Skyrim real estate's concerned, but there's a storm brewing beneath this placid place. Whiterun is home to two dynastic families, the Battleborns, which is a terrible place to give birth, and the Greymanes, which is like calling yourself the old guys. Yorland from the Skyforge is a Greymane, and according to his brother Vignar,
Oh, we've got an old saying. The Greymanes have lived in Whiterun since the first snows fell in Skyrim. Well, maybe that's not entirely true, but our clan's got a long and proud history in this old. We respect the old ways, the Nord ways, And the Greymane has worked the Skyforge since before the time of my grandfather's father.
Meanwhile, the Battleborns have found considerable wealth in recent times through their creatively named Battleborn Farm.
In case you were wondering what sort of large-scale agricultural operation would allow them to build this lavish mansion, their farm produces 18 leeks, 6 wheat, 5 fat gourds, 3 chickens, and a cow. That's 57 gold every 10 days, or 71 if you kill the cow. For comparison, the Whiterun player house Breeze Home costs 5,000 gold, which would cost the Battleborns 2.5 years to save up for, assuming they had 0 expenses and didn't kill the cow. These titans of industry see the Greymane's insistence on upholding the old ways as ignorant. As Ulfred, the matriarch of the Battleborns, so eloquently calls them,
Uncivilized pelt-wearing axe-draggers. It's a wonder they don't still live in a cave like those ancestors they keep boasting about. It's true, Vignar Greymane and his lot are one of Whiterun's oldest and, depending on who you ask, most respected clans. I don't dispute that. But it's one thing to take pride in your lineage, and another to cling blindly to the past. What they call honor and tradition, I call ignorance.
If asked what caused this rift between the families, he states,
Money, you laggard. What else? It always comes down to coin. We've got the same pride, same honor, and we've got wealth. No wonder they envy us.
whether this animosity festered into jealousy, greed, or a hatred of pelt wearing, their opposing views on the Civil War are almost certainly what sparked it. The Battleborns are staunch supporters of the Empire, while the Greymane's insistence on the old ways has them throwing their lot in with Ulfric Stormcloak and his rebels. Before the war, these two families were once close friends, and there are still some who cling to the hope that they might reunite, at the very least to prevent each family from becoming more inbred than a baker's missing wedding ring.
This war's as stupid as our feud with Clan Greymane.
Just between you, me, and the Indian man that YouTube pays to check these videos for slurs, a secret romance has blossomed between Alfina Greymane and John Battleborn. I procured this letter from Alfina. It reads,
My dearest Alfina, how long will this go on? The sneaking around, the missed opportunities. I feel like I can't take it anymore. I love you, and you love me. That's all that matters. Anyone who has a problem with it doesn't really care for either of us. John.
Signing his name probably wasn't the smartest choice, but neither is conversing about your romance in public, I suppose.
Sing you a special song tonight, beautiful lass?
Not now, I'm working.
Ah, you're always working. Why else would I spend so much time here?
Mikhail is quite the songbird. Maybe he's the reason you're here all the time.
Aye, the bard's got talent. I'll give him that. You just make sure his music is the only thing you're admiring.
Oh, John, darling, you know you're the only stone-biting, knuckle-dragging Nord for me.
Ah, that's my girl.
Oh, I just love the flickers of a doomed romance, don't you? You can actually leverage this information against John to get him to bring you the Imperial missive that his family keeps locked away in their study at the Battleborn mansion.
It reveals details of the Thalmor's capture of Thorold Greymane, son of the Skyforge blacksmith Yorland. Although we can't say conclusively that the Battleborns had a part in his incarceration, this doesn't stop Ulfred Battleborn from using it to mock Thorold's mother.
My son still lives, I feel it in my heart. So tell me, Battleborns, where is he? Where are you holding my Thorold?
Do you believe this old hag? Holding him? Why, I've got him in my cellar. He's my prisoner. Face it, Cal. Your stupid son is dead. He died a Stormcloak traitor. And you best keep your mouth shut before you suffer the same.
Oh, you think his sins end there, huh? Here, come take a look at this. The Battleborn Mansion has a shadow mark. This one means protected. Common graffiti to some, but to those in the know, these shadow marks provide important information to those with sticky fingers and flexible morals. And no, before you ask, I'm not part of the Thieves Guild, alright? And you know what, I don't care for your blatant racial profiling either. Still, these shadow marks often speak more than their targets ever would. After all, why would the Battleborns be protected? Their wealth and influence should make them a prime target. Or a strong ally.
As part of the Thieves Guild questline, you are contracted by Alfred Battleborn to wipe the criminal record of an old war pal of his, Arn. In response, he pledges his full support to the Thieves Guild's shady operations in Whiterun.
Hardly the honourable sort he loudly proclaims himself to be. Of course, these family feuds are just a small-scale reflection of the war that engulfs our meat-and-fuck kingdom.
Meat and hot?
Stormcloaks versus the Imperials, the old ways versus the new. Not bathing versus sort of bathing.
Surely you know of Belgriff the Greater, the Jarl of Whiterun. He claims to be the only neutral Jarl, but the Imperials' presence here is undeniable. Oh, sure, he'll happily express his disdain for the Thalmor or how he's denied the Legion's troops garrison, but just look at his guards, kitted out in Imperial gear and all. Now, the surrounding region of Whiterun Hold has a Stormcloak camp, but no Imperial one.
The Empire wouldn't sacrifice such a strategically vital central hold. Unless, of course, Whiterun was secretly the Imperials' presence here. I'm just saying, man. I'm just asking questions.
This is an ode to Skyrim's staunch protectors, the Imperials.
That Weasley womanizing wordsmith Mikhail, the one who plays in the Bannermere every night, he only plays Wonderwall, as well as the Age of Aggression, the pro-Imperial version of the Stormcloak Rebellion song, the Age of Oppression. As you might imagine, each version is only played in towns controlled by their respective factions, as bards typically like to keep their head attached to their neck. That's how they sing, after all.
Despite Jarl Balgruuf's claims of neutrality, he doesn't seem to have convinced many, as tactical maps found in other locations of Skyrim mark Whiterun as an Imperial city. Should a brother side with the Stormcloaks during the Civil War, the Jarl will openly side with the Legion, forcing you and your blue-bannered brothers to assault Whiterun. Should you succeed, Vignar Greymane will be crowned the new Jarl, and the Battleborns will be constantly harassed by their new Stormcloak overlords.
Ha! That'll teach him. Oh, hey, speaking of Mikhail the Bard, have you read this cringy-ass book he wrote? There's at least 23 copies in circulation, I'm assuming all handmade by him, and let's just say this thing's a real piece of shit. Why don't we just dive into all the problems with it?
A Gentleman's Guide to Whiterun is a Sex Pest's personal travel guide for Whiterun. In it, Mikhail gives you insider knowledge on some of the characters, shops, and locations you'll spot around town in the creepiest way possible. Right out the gate, he makes specific mention of the general fuckability of Holder and Sadia, two women who work in the same inn he plays at. So as colleagues. I really hope the Bannermere has an HR department.
A stout lass named Hulda tends the bar. Don't let that stony Nord exterior fool you, for she is possessed of that same fiery passion that all Nord women try so hard to conceal. Sadia, the barmaid, is an exotic Redguard beauty. She is quite mysterious, and your humble author is determined to learn her secrets.
He says Arcadia, the elderly woman who runs Arcadia's cauldron, is too old. Her flange is decrepit.
She is, however, a bit old for my taste. A gentleman of advanced years might find in her a worthy companion.
Her pussy is dry! Mikhail also confuses Imperials and Nords multiple times. He calls Adriana Avenici a Nord when she's an Imperial, and calls himself an Imperial when he's a Nord. He's an Imperial weeb. Speaking of Adriana, his book reads,
Adrienne is quite fair, but I should not want to find myself being introduced to the keen edge of that husband's war axe. If married ladies are your preferred sport, then have at, but don't say that you weren't warned.
Can you imagine if someone started distributing a book about how hot your wife is, and that if you don't mind a married woman, you should try hitting on her? Finally, he claims you can't get pussy at the temple. Well, points for trying, I suppose.
As you can imagine, writing a travel guide on who you can fuck in a town of around 78 people, as well as who you shouldn't but could anyway, doesn't really make you popular with, well, anyone. Our hapless lover, John Battleborn, sees Mikhail as a parasite.
Man gives bards a bad name. We Nords have a long history as warrior poets. I am proud to count myself among them. But Mikhail, he sings only for gold and the affections of wenches. He dishonors our traditions.
But dear sweet Mikhail is but a lowly roach, desperately clawing at scraps of pussy meat. His life means little in the grand scheme of things. But the Jarl, now there's a story.
Jarl Balgruuf is the direct descendant of Olaf One-Eye, a first-era Jarl of Whiterun who would go on to become the High King of Skyrim. Olaf is a fascinating character, a hero to some, a tyrant to others, but above all, a testimony to the power of hyperbole.
Olaf fought a climactic battle against a fearsome dragon known as Numenix, which he eventually bested by harnessing the power of the Thuum, the voice. As is often the case with Nordic tales of greatness, the embellishments have grown on the story like a cancer, and we can't be too certain of how, well, any of it went down. As historian Adonato Leotelli muses in his examination, Olaf and the Dragon,
first, Olaf comes at the dragon with his axe and shield. Some variants of the legend say that Olaf and the beast battled with sword and claw for days. Most accounts hold that Olaf, perhaps frustrated that his weapons are completely ineffectual against the dragon, finally cast them aside, giving his voice to the rage that had been building within him.
Whatever the truth was, the battle was won, and Olaf took the still-alive Numenix and mailed his ass to Whiterun. How he managed to drag a dragon from Mount Anthor to Whiterun is conspicuously absent from almost all retellings of the story.
Oh, senor, I don't think you both will fit. My car is muy poquito, you know? This not gonna work.
Bruh, can't we just try?
No, senor, please, you have to cancel the ride on your end, because I can't do it. They'll fire me if I do it. You have to do it.
Bro, can't we just try? However it happened, the dragon made its way to Whiterun, where a prison was purpose-built around the beast. You might know it better as Dragon's Reach, the seat of power in Whiterun, where Numenix was imprisoned until his death. His skull now hangs proudly above the Jarl's throne.
The patchy retellings of this story aren't exclusively due to a long-running game of Akavari Whispers, but instead because Olaf's ego refused to let anyone cast doubt on his tale. The bard Svafnir, who lived during Olaf's time, wrote a particularly scathing ballad called King Olaf's Verse. The only surviving copy of King Olaf's Verse, found on Svafnir's corpse in Olaf's burial crypt, I'll add, reads as follows.
O Olaf, our subjugator, the one-eyed betrayer, death-dealing demon, dragon-killing king, your legend is lies, lurid and false, your cunning capture of Numenix, a con for the ages.
Svafnir's fate would be a recurring theme for Olaf's enemies. Olaf's great-grandson, Jarl Balgruuf, might not be that great, depending on who you ask. Now, I've already told you about his secret allegiance to the Empire, but the why is up for debate. It's possible that he sided with them out of a personal grudge against Ulfric Stormcloak, the leader of the rebels. But that would be a pretty petty reason to throw the sons and daughters of Whiterun into the meat grinder.
He and Ulfric have been at odds for years, and I'm afraid Balgruf will end up siding with the Empire because of it. But it's hard to believe that even Balgruf would choose Elisif over Ulfric.
But this is likely just one read on the man. Balgruf says he wants what's best for Whiterun, and that likely includes the stability that the Empire provides. After all, the only thing Balgruf hates more than Ulfric is the Old Merry Dominion. You do know what the Old Merry Dominion is, right? Where did you say you were from again?
The Dominion are an elf supremacist union who had a slap around with the Empire a wee while ago. As part of the treaty that ended the war, the White Gold Concordat, Talos worship was banned throughout the Empire, including Skyrim.
Telling a Nord to stop worshipping Talos is like telling a Khajiit to stop selling skooma in Redguard neighborhoods, or like telling a High Elf to not do one of these.
Jarl Balgruf is a fervent Talos worshipper to this day, helped by the fact that the Empire did a purposefully poor effort of enforcing the Talos ban.
Although Ulfric also fights for free worship of Talos, his victory would almost certainly plunge Skyrim into chaos. Keep in mind, the Empire struggled to fight the Dominion with the help of the Nords, so a divided Skyrim would be easy pickings. And unlike the Empire, the Dominion would enforce the ban on Talos, or worse. And it's for this reason that I believe Jarl Balgruf has sided with the Empire. But the Jarl's most tantalizing secret might not be his political leaning, it's his family. Now, the Jarl has squirted out a few ankle biters, but it's his youngest, Nalkir, whose story interests me most. Now, Nalkir is a troubled child, to say the least. Even his dad admits as much. Nalkir's mother is nowhere to be found, and in fact is mentioned almost nowhere, except by the woman who whispers secrets to him from behind a hidden door in the keep. If you pencil in Nalkir for coffee at, say, 2 p.m. this afternoon, if that works for you, he'll spill his father's secrets.
I know that he still worships Talos, that he hates the Thalmor almost as much as the Stormcloaks do, that he worries about being chased from Whiterun, that I don't have the same mother as my brother and sister.
Now, it's theorized that Nalkir is actually the Jarl's brother, a fact that's reinforced in the game's creation kit. Of course, he did hear this from
Mephala, the Lady of Whispers. I tug at the web of connections between mortals. Love, hatred, loyalty.
Yeah, okay, you don't have to do the whole thing every time. Now, this salacious vixen is none other than a Daedric prince, and a sneaky wee bugger to boot. Now
I'm still here, you know.
Mephala's a temptress and a liar, and lately has taken to talking through a cursed katana known as the Ebony Blade.
That blade has a storied history, passing between the hands of the Eternal Champion, the hero of Daggerfall, the hero of Kvatch, and beyond. It carries with it a charm cast by a wizard that ensures the blade never stays with one owner for too long.
Probably a good thing too, because that she-devil Mephala loves to spread her web of lies through it. From what I've heard, Jarl Balgruf was the latest unlucky sod to come into possession of the blade and attempted to destroy it in the flames of the Skyforge. Even the Forge's legendary flames were no match, and it allegedly sucked the warmth out of the coals it laid upon, much like she sucks the warmth out of anyone who loved. Now, do you remember about 5 ad breaks ago when I mentioned Jorviskir, the legendary the legendary longboat turned mead hall? Today it hosts a sort of warriors guild named the Companions. If you have a sharp memory, you'll notice they share a name with Ysgramor's army of 500 companions. While many of these companions would seek conquest deep into Tamriel, Jeek of the River instead chose to settle Whiterun. The Companions were founded by him as a means of protecting those who could not fight, acting as a sort of spiritual successor to Ysgramor's army of conquerors. bound by honor, these companions have a storied history. Unlike the other guilds in Skyrim, the companions haven't had a formal leader since Ysgramor, with a harbinger instead acting as a sort of mediator and mentor.
For hundreds of years, these harbingers were always true blue at Morins, but this wouldn't always be the case.
A red guard named Surik the Lofty was the first to break this tradition, and by the end of the First Era, even an elf led them. When the elf's predecessor was on his deathbed, he was quoted saying, "Even an elf can be born with the heart of a Nord sometimes." After the companions had to be forcibly reset after a series of dishonorable harbingers, they established the Circle, based on Ysgramor's own council of captains. The Circle would act as a group of mentors to the newer recruits, but its purpose would evolve over time. One might say it transformed into a werewolf, because they all became...
You see, an ancient harbinger called Terrafig made a deal with a pact of witches, which is generally inadvisable and can shoot your insurance premiums through the roof. They convinced him that if the companions hunted for their lord Hircine, a Daedric prince of course, he would bestow upon them great power. This power turned out to be lycanthropy, and thus began the long-standing tradition of bestowing this curse on members of the Circle.
Now, I'd hope at this point you've learnt not to make deals with Daedric princes in exchange for promises of power, as these typically don't come cheap.
The Nords infected with lycanthropy are not granted passage to the Nordic afterlife of Sovngarde, instead forced to hunt in Hircine's hunting grounds for the rest of eternity.
While some embrace or even choose this fate, I think I'd personally rather have a giant piss up with the greatest Nords who ever lived. Well, our tour is coming to a close, though there's still one last place I'd like you to see. No, not the Gilder Green or the Temple of Kine. The fools there would sooner let someone scream in pain than the short, sweet release of death. They didn't exactly appreciate it when I made that suggestion. No, you wash up and meet me upstairs at the Drunken Huntsman. There's something there I'd like you to see. You didn't think that information was free, did you? For the record, I am truly sorry. You've been one of the funner clients that I've shown around, but I had a contract, friend. No hard feelings. Guards! Guards! Oh, Vitalis, there's been a murder! All that yelling really is exhausting. Well, best of luck. Hey, no hard feelings, right? You're alive. It's more than can be said about the other guy. No, look, I'm here to get you out. Not right now, I still need to find the keys, but while you wait, I just released a new video on my second channel. It's about video game marketing stunts.
Say hello to Dovahkiin Tom Calamai. God, that's a red baby. That is such a red baby.
Link will be down below. And I've also started streaming over on twitch.tv/minikudos.
Yes! Yes! More! More!
Who knows, might even play a little bit of Skyrim. If you haven't listened to my podcast, Beef Boys, we've just started a brand new season, making it the perfect time to start. Oh, and finally, be sure to go to fantasydivision.com and pick yourself up some of our legally distinct Black Sisterhood merchandise. Well, you look like you're having fun in there. Hope the guards don't give you too much trouble, and I guess I'll see you in 3 to 5 business days. Adios. Baby, I was just with a client. You know I didn't mean it. Oh. Baby, you know I didn't mean it.